How's it going, New World? Sethphir here, and we are back with another update. This time, we are diving into the Void. Amazon has just released their formal announcement that the Void Gauntlet is coming into the game, and with it is going to come some balance adjustments and a lot of bug fixes. So let's go ahead and dive into this. We'll check it out, and we'll see all the details that are coming with this announcement. And this should be coming out on November 18th at 5 a.m., so super early in the morning for the West Coast. So that'll be 8 a.m. for the East Coast, and is expected to have a downtime of 4 hours, so it should be up right around noon East Coast time. So with that being said, there is the update 1.1. We have finally branched past. The downtime will begin for all regions at 5 a.m. PT on November 18th, and expected downtime is 4 hours. And it looks like they say, greeting adventurers, Into the Void has graduated from the PTR and is releasing into the main New World game. So this is going to be crazy. The Void Gauntlet, we saw it before. It's a ranged and melee hybrid with supporting capabilities, healing capabilities, a lot of cool stuff in there. So it seems to have a jack of all trades kind of vibe and a lot of interesting things. So let's go ahead and dive into the Void as we will click here and see everything that it has to offer. I like the little screenshot here. Let's go ahead and dive down. Looks like the spotlight is the new weapon Void Gauntlet. It has the Annihilation and Decay tree, as we have covered in the past, which is a melee and range tree respectively. It accelerates at doing buffs and debuffs and is great for group play and pretty much things like that. So it's going to be a nice pairing with the life staff. It's going to be a nice pairing with the sword and shield, and it's going to be a really good pairing with some of the mage weapons as a melee offensive option for the casters that normally didn't have that. So it's going to be really nice to see. Looks like they have the new enemies, the Varangian Knights. That was my best pronunciation for that. It's a small, low-level zone with some extra enemies and different mob variants, so you'll see some new things coming into the world of Aeternum. And then we have some notes down here, so let's go ahead and take a look at this, because there is a lot. If I scroll through all this, it's going to take forever, so we're going to try to go fast. New world experience. So it looks like they added different starter zones. They have some different visuals and POIs. Erza's Forge quest has been updated, so it looks like a lot of stuff that are just general quality of life stuff. Here's something important. Run on roads faster. You get 10% movement speed when you're traveling on a road. So if the player engages in PvP combat, then they will not get that movement speed. So it looks like you can kind of AFK and travel the roads a little bit faster, so that's something nice. Looks like they have added a 10% luck bonus and a 30% gathering luck bonus to players flagged for PvP. This is crazy. This is going to make everyone want to flag. So now, all of a sudden, getting Orichalcum in dangerous places flagged up is going to be the way to go, because you're getting 30% gathering luck, so you're probably going to see a lot more Void Ore and Tolvium, Cinnabar, all those things that you want. So that's going to be really nice. Looks like they have a bunch of bug fixes, including AI stuck in stuff, boss gating, expedition things, vitals and nameplates were messed up, so there's all some general good stuff there. Next, they have quests, and they have new PvP faction missions that we talked about before. You can control a point and siege a fort. You can intercept and defeat enemy players from the enemy faction, and then you can also go to a war camp where you can retrieve hidden plans and bring it back to the base. So no longer is the 3 quests only for the PvP missions. You will now have a different way to do those. Looks like they updated the main storyline to improve the experience. That looks decent. They updated one of the survivals, Wolf's Den and First Light, to reduce the amount of travel. So just quality of life stuff, fixing everything like the 25 up experience and leveling, things like that. So they had some notable bug fixes as well, so they fixed a variety of those. If you want to take a look at all of these later, I can link in the description down below, but we're going to keep diving in, and we're going to look for the main meat and bones of everything. Looks like here we add the world text, so they caused some issue causing AI to spawn faster. Looks like some issue with town board projects and PvP bonus experience, so not too bad on that. Combat and AI, looks like consumables. They found a bug that allowed for the well food buff stack to different types of tiers of food. The most recent buff will now be replaced by the previous versions. So no longer can people cheese food buff stack in wars, where if you ever found a player and it looks like they're not taking any damage, that's because they were basically not. They were just healing it all up. You could have 5 to 6 food buffs stacked up and they would just be invincible. Like, look at me, I'm so good, I killed you. Yeah, okay, we get it, buddy. But that's no longer there, so that'll be nice to see. People will actually take damage and only have one food buff. And they also fixed a bug for the weapon coating, so that's really nice. Gear perks got some adjustments, and this was some of the changes we were talking about before in some of my past videos. It looks like the scaling on leeching before was 0.5 to 1.5. It is now being changed from 1 to 5%. This is gigantic because if you have this on your ring and your weapon, this is a weapon and ring exclusive perk, you will now be able to get 10% life stealing on any weapon that you want in the game, which changes the way a lot of things works and a lot of builds, so that's very nice. They increased the efficiency of Freedom, Vigor, and Invigorate debuff reduction perks from 3 to 5% to 3 to 8%, so you could get stunned less long, you could have less application of burn or rend or slow, whichever one of those categories you picked, that's going to be really nice. They decreased the cooldown of the Keen Speed perk, which grants the haste on critical hits from 10 seconds to 5 seconds, and the haste duration is up to 3 seconds, so they're trying to balance that out a little bit. They increased the poisoning, bloodletting, burning, crippling, and feebling, and infected effect on the ring perks from the range of 3 to 7 is now 5 to 15%. This is also a pretty good change because these are going to start to matter for builds like the Fire Staff where you get that burn over time. If all of a sudden you can have 15%, 30%, 45% more duration on burns, you're going to be doing a lot of damage. So damage over time abilities and duration of CC abilities are going to be going up. So this is something nice to see and a notable change. They fixed a bug that allowed chain elemental perks to damage people that weren't supposed to be and also strike units that were dead. And they have fixed a few other varieties. Chain Bane converted, and the chain elemental perk from the initial impact of the gravity well, and the hardy perk was giving an incorrect bonus to strike damage. Okay, so they fixed a few things on there. I didn't see anything about Runus though, so hopefully that has been fixed as well. Equipment load increased the healing bonus of light equip load from 20 to 30% and increased the healing bonus from medium load from 10 to 15. So this is supposed to be the counterbalance. They want to get healers out of heavy armor and into the lighter armor if they want to do a bunch of healing, right? And I think that's fair. That's a good trade-off. And actually, I think they need to take a look at the damage bonuses for that too, because everybody walking around with heavy right now is not probably ideal or intended. They have a lot of navigation updates. It looks like jumping and traversing is disabled when you're in the menu. They fixed the way you vault and jump in place, so that's really nice. And just a lot of bug issues that were just poor interactions where you were getting unresponsive if you tried to block or dodge at this time, or you're getting hit. So a lot of nice things there. We won't go over every single one, but what this means is the game will be smoother, right? Duels, there was a duel exploit where people would no longer avoid durability damage when gathering. That's weird. Attribute bonus threshold. So reduce the damage reduction provided by the 250 constitution bonus from 80 to 60%. Fixed the bug that caused the 250 constitution bonus to trigger on a blocked hit, and then there was a bug preventing players from dodge canceling out of attacks with an ability recovery window when the strength bonus of 250 was active. Oh my god, this is the best fix this patch. We can finally go to 300 strength and actually kill people. This is great. So fantastic. 250 strength is now working. 300 strength is now a viable option because you can actually, it does what it says it's supposed to do and it's not hidden nerfing you. So that's fantastic to see. Gigantic change. Next, they're talking about dodges. They fixed an issue causing the two-handed melee and magic staff dodge rolls to have smaller vulnerability window than the other weapon types. That is major. I'm glad they have finally adjusted that. They fixed inconsistent cancel timings between dodges and different weapon types, and they fixed a bug that would cause you to dodge backwards would result in a small teleport. And they fixed another issue that would cause players to not take damage from AoE if they dodged into the effective area. And yeah, I agree with a lot of this. Dodge seems weird. It sometimes has a longer iframe for certain people, doesn't for others, and that makes a lot of sense. The weapon type was affecting the result of that, and some players are like, man, I can't hit this guy, like it looks like he's dodging but he doesn't, and then he avoids all damage but then he dodges a second later. What's going on? That's what was going on. Next, we have War. Structures are now immune to buffs and debuffs and wouldn't logically affect the siege weapon and deployable structures. Good to know. Disabled player collision on Inferno traps due to players occasionally getting stuck on them. That's also great. And made it so players that can deal damage to other players with weapon abilities through forts, fort gates, and weapon gates. Oh, can't deal damage, right? So the gate blocks all the damage no matter what, because you used to be able to get hit if you were too close to the gate, which sucked if you were trying to repair a gate because you were just getting shredded while trying to defend the gate. It was really bad. So good fixes there. Outpost Rush, they have reduced the amount, the power of the Battle Bread from 15% damage and health or defense to 5% damage and defense. They reduced the damage reduction on the Baroness buffs from 25 to 15, and they reduced the damage and defense on the Commander Tent from 7.515 to 369. So upgrading the Commander Tent is going to do less for your team, as well as the Battle Bread, so it's going to be more about just fighting, I suppose. I'm not sure why they did that. Honestly, I think it was fine before. The Battle Bread maybe needed to be working as intended, but it probably wasn't too bad. But I feel like people should have to interact with the mechanics of the game instead of just we all go mid and ARAM. But maybe that's what they want. Who knows? It looks like notable bug fixes. Backstab. They found a bug that could cause backstab to trigger when players were attacking from the front. Yeah, that's terrible. On block, they've caused some weapon mastery passes to say they trigger on block against unblockable attacks. And then the cooldown timers, they fixed issues where passives and perks timers were being removed when swapping weapons, so you wouldn't be able to see that. So now we go into the weapon adjustments, and I just did a video on this today. If you want a super detailed look on my opinion on all of these, then go ahead and check out that video right before this. But we'll go ahead and dive into the changes here. So it looks like Armor Breaker got a buff going up from 15 to 20%. That is huge. Opening Act damage bonus has been increased. That's just minor. It's if you hit somebody at high health or 100% health. And they adjusted the Armor Breaker hitbox to be able to hit people that have been knocked down. And that's good because you used to have to like angle it super far down, and it was really awkward. Mighty Gavel got a buff as well as the upgraded version of it, Justice for All, making this a massive PvP or PvE move. Sorry, this definitely will be one to look out for. Wrecking Ball got a damage buff and a fortified duration increase as well. So Hammer getting buffed all around, which is perplexing to me, as Hammer is one of the highest performing weapons in PvP and PvE. So very interesting that we're getting a lot of buffs here. Clear Out fix an issue where the upgrade was less efficient when striking multiple targets. Shockwave, Sundering Shockwave reduced the maximum rend effectiveness from 20 to 10%. Interesting, that was not noted. So that lowers the effectiveness of the perk, and that's probably why they buffed the armor shred. So Hammer is now only going to give a maximum 30% armor shred instead of 35. So it's actually a soft nerf to the armor shred and making the Sundering Shockwave perk less important. Path of Destiny, Leeching Path, found a perk or a bug that prevented it from working when a stimulated reduction modifier was equipped. Don't even know what that means. If anybody knows what that means, just let me know down in the comments below. And then the passives, they looks like they had the exhaustive attacks. That stamina decrease is going up from 15 to 20, so very nice to see. Life Staff got a lot of adjustments here, gigantic adjustments. Looks like they're trying to push the healing power into the light and medium equip loads while reducing some of the power of the tanky builds. That's what they're trying to say here. And they want to make it easier to properly target and heal the correct group members as well. So hopefully they have some smoothing out with the interactions of Life Staff, because I hear you healers, it is rough. Like, it's really clunky, and they need to do something to help the UI for healers and to help the smoothness of playing this spec, right? So that's definitely good to see. Hopefully they made some strong adjustments in that area. They reduced the base healing by 20% across the board to account for the increase from the healing equip load. So looks like you are basically being forced into light and medium armor as a healer. So they don't want this like super heavy paladin invincible build that's kind of been going around. Next they have, looks like they have targeting adjustments. Normalize all targeting of healing spells and target lock on to have a max range of 25 meters. That's going to be interesting. So you're going to have a meter check now. Hopefully that works out well. Added the range of targeted healing functionality. The group UI will change color when the target is out of range, and if the target moves out of range, the spell will cancel instead of casting on yourself. Try to cast a targeted heal on an out of range target will display target is out of range notification, and fixed an issue where targeted heals activated by using the ability key would not perform a direct heal on the intended target. So they're looking into the UI. This is great. This is fantastic. Sacred Ground got an adjustment, fixed an issue where the Lifestaff Sacred Ground VFX and tooltips stated it longer than the actual duration. They reduced the effectiveness of the Fortified perk from 3 to 15 to 3 to 10, so less Fortify going out. Reduced the Holy Ground stamina and mana regeneration from 100% to 50%, and they fixed an issue that allowed for healing from the skill to be stacked from multiple sources if they were using different ability upgrades. Yeah, that was huge. A lot of people were cheesing this, and that's why I've always said wars are not really competitive right now. It's just sad. Some things need to be balanced, and things need to be working correctly for that to be on there. But we'll see some other adjustments here. Looks like Splash of Light. The efficiency of the Splash of Light ability is going up from 40 to 60, so it's a good AoE healing spell, and you're going to get more mana back from the upgrade. Very nice to see. Orb of Protection, they fixed an issue where the effect was being refreshed and healing was applied by the Protector's Blessing. That's good to fix because we definitely need that working properly. Mending Protection, the perks functionality has been changed. Instead of triggering when the target does not have any active buffs, it now triggers if the target healed by the Orb of Protection is under 50% health. So they adjusted that to actually kind of make sense. So this is an item perk one. I don't know why it wasn't in the perk thing. So this may be a decent ability to check out now. We'll have to be on the lookout for that one. Light's Embrace, the efficiency of the upgrade for mana was going from 1 to 2%, so you'll get more mana back. And then the Bless passive range is going down from the 10 to 30% to a 5 to 20% range, so less healing from stacking up that healing heavy attack buff thing. So next we have the Hatchet. So they wanted to buff the throwing Hatchet tree to make it more useful. As you can see in my video before, I was theory crafting this sort of throwing build. They buffed the Infected Throw to make it more anti-healing, and buffering for heavy attacks to make them more consistent to use. So there's going to be some cool changes in here. So it looks like they fixed an issue where Aim Throw could cancel basic attacks at any time. They fixed an issue causing the heavy attacks to not buffer properly, resulting in some attack translation not functioning. And they fixed another issue where the cause the player to home in on a target, the player would be moved to a spot far enough away from that target that the hit could miss, and despite the hitbox size, so that's good to see too. I noticed there's a lot of rubber banding when tracking with the Great Axe and melee weapons that kind of home in, so hopefully that's fixed all around the board and not just with Hatchet. Berserker is coming up on the next one as they fix an issue while activating Berserk could consume the Relentless Fury and accumulated power buffs. So yeah, that's a little wild. Feral Rush fixed an issue where it could not be triggered without a cooldown in settlements, or it could be triggered. That's also very strange. Raging Torrent got a fix for attacks that could miss, and the Infected Throw, this is going to be an important one, the anti-healing. It's the disease and weaken duration is now 10 seconds instead of 5, and it also has the Mortal Power, increases the bonus duration on low health targets from 8% or 8 seconds to 15 seconds. So that's definitely a powerful anti-healing maneuver now. The aerial transition, or the cloud, is now going to last 6 seconds instead of 3, so we will finally see some sort of counterplay to healing in the game. This may be a viable way to go. And it might be Hatchet's niche, so that's cool to see Hatchet getting some love. It might have a good, strong use in the war compositions now. Rending Throw got a massive cooldown reduction from 15 seconds to 8 seconds. That is going to be huge. I would keep an eye out on that one. And the Defied Death, looks like there was a cooldown timer issue that was removed when a player died, so they fixed that one. Next is going to be Great Axe, which is going to be the first skill, Reap. They fixed an issue with the Great Axe Reap incorrectly triggering a breakout dodge. Okay, that's really weird. So basically people were rolling out a second part of Reap because of that. So now it should be able to connect more efficiently. Gravwell, they fixed an issue causing Gravwell's slow effect to not always be removed if the player was able to get out of the effective area, resulting in the effect lasting up to 2 seconds longer than normal. And they fixed an issue where the Gravity Well tooltip wasn't listing the melee damage caused by the ability if the Gravity Well was used in close proximity to the target, so it just wasn't popping up as a damage number. We have a buff to Whirlwind. They added Grit. I'm interested to see what is going to happen with this. Because now you can spin to win, perhaps, and not be interrupted. Because that was the big drawback of Whirlwind before. Anybody could just stop you from doing it. But now you can't be stopped, so that'll be different. Fortifying Whirlwind fixed an issue where the perk applied too many stacks of Fortify. So you do get Fortify when you Whirlwind. So this might be an interesting ability to experiment with for the Great Axe users. Passives, the heavy pull fix an issue where heavy attacks had incorrect hitboxes when this passive was equipped, so it has been now fixed. I haven't been able to get it to work on the PTR, so maybe they just found it and fixed it and didn't put it on, but we will see how it works. I'm going to go ahead and test that one. The gravity passive has no longer increased the duration of pulls. We updated the ability to now apply a root for 0.25 seconds to targets hit by a pull. So this is very important because if that works with heavy pull and all other pulls, the Great Axe is going to be even better than it already was, which is going to be fantastic. Next, we have the bow. Fix the primary bow attack. Fix an issue that would allow consecutive primary attacks to fire faster than intended. They updated the descriptions for several abilities so that they cannot headshot. And they fixed an issue with bow abilities benefiting from increased damage from higher tier arrows. So there was something not applying the damage boost there, but now it should be there. So that's going to be a buff and damage for bow users. Evade shot, go the distance. This upgrade now applies haste at the end of the ability rather than the start, so the buff duration is not lost during the animation. Fantastic. Very good. You should also do that for the fire staff when you get the haste after a fire staff. When you use burnout, they should give that same treatment to that kind of combo there. So Amazon, if you're watching, check that one out. Poison shot. Looks like they reduced the cooldown by 5 seconds. This is phenomenal. They fixed an issue that would cause it to go on cooldown without being fired, so that's good as well. I know there was another poison shot adjustment, but it looks like it didn't make it through that 50% damage nerf on the firing of the direct hit, so I'll have to check that out when it comes out. Rapid shot got its cooldown reduced from 20 to 14 seconds, which is probably going to make this a massive PvE monster skill now. PvP not so much, as you do kind of stun yourself in place for 3 seconds while you shoot these arrows. So that's always been the problem with that one. They fixed an issue where the upgrade was not working as intended as well. The Rain of Arrow no longer hits enemies through doors. And then there's a few passives. Fixed an issue with hip firing the bow that triggered some sort of passive from the Musket ability tree. Whoa, that's really weird. That's actually the weirdest interaction I've seen in a while. Okay, cool stuff. Moving on to Sword, and this is probably, again, going to be a long video because we got tons of changes. I think we're like halfway done. Oh, there's so much. Okay, moving back up to Sword. Our main goal of the Sword updates were to make Leaping Strike the ability to feel better and improve buffering for heavy attacks and make them consistent. That's very good. I like that. Fix an issue where the basic attack buffers and cancels weren't working properly during the Sword heavy attack. Fantastic. Hopefully that's smoothed out and better now. Fix an issue with the fully charged Sword heavy attack had different timings than the regular heavy attack. And the shield rush has now been improved. The weaken duration is going from 4 seconds to 10 seconds, so people are going to be debuffed quite a lot longer. Very nice change. I like that. Leaping Strike has its cooldown reduced from 25 seconds to 18 seconds. The damage has been buffed by 15%, and they sped up the recovery after you land. The Cowardly Punishment update now shows the exact slow percentage value, which is 50% slow for 8 seconds, and it is huge. Let me tell you, DPS Sword might be a thing. Mark my words. This could be interesting. Fire Staff, looks like they wanted to update the Fire Staff to reduce some of the effectiveness of standard attacks due to how powerful they felt in comparison to abilities, and they updated some abilities to feel more impactful. And I agree with that logic. I don't think mages should be machine gun shooting auto attacks. I think they should be casting hard-hitting spells, and I would love to see that in the gameplay. So, Pillar of Fire has been buffed on the damage scaling. They fixed an issue that caused Pillar of Fire to target the caster when using the ability. They fixed an issue where the Rune of Helios was activated when using the ability as well, or didn't activate correctly. And they fixed an issue with Pillar of Fire that caused it to hit twice against targets near the edge of the effective radius. So it's now going to do less damage because it's not going to hit twice, but it will do more damage in the singularity hit. So a bit of a nerf to Pillar of Fire there. Meteor Shower fixed an issue where Runes of Helios triggered on targeting Meteor Shower rather than casting it. Yeah, that's a pretty major bug, but still a very useless skill. Please do something with Meteor Shower. It feels awful. It is awful. Do something. Fireball added additional clarity to Fireball ability, is not able to crit. Previously, it would show crit damage color, but not actually deal increased damage. That's very deceptive. It will no longer show orange damage numbers, and additional tooltip was added. Okay, cool. Flamethrower increased from 34% to 50%. That's actually pretty good. We'll have to see how that works. It's probably going to be a PvE ability only, but I could see some other stuff going on with it. There is another upgrade that upgrades it by 25%, so you could be doing quite a lot of DPS with that. We'll have to check that one out, to be determined. They reduced a lot of passives, a lot. Everything got cut in half or by like a third, so they get rid of like a lot of crit damage, crit for free, empowered damage and stuff like that. So the list goes on, right? Like there's tons of stuff there. So they also switched the position of Singed and Watch It Burn in the talent trees, which means that you will have a better time getting to those light attack damage burns and an easier time triggering the other ability on the other side too. So that's going to change the way that mages are building their abilities. They did do a buff to Reheat, but again, Reheat is a useless ability. You need to swap it out for something else. No one cares about mana regen when you stop casting. They really don't. So moving on to the next one, the Spear. Our goal was to buff and adjust some of the lesser used abilities to make a wider selection of abilities feel viable. So they adjusted the distance the player moved towards the target when doing a heavy attack. The heavy attack was pulling the user too close previously, resulting in the Devi Reach passive not being able to trigger consistently, so it's going to work better with the mechanics of the Spear, and I think that the Spear received a lot of massive buffs on this. So we're going in here, it looks like there is a sweep buff to Coup de Grace. Coup de Grace will now do 25% more damage on the downward strike, and the attack is now flagged as heavy, allowing it to trigger heavy related passives. Oh, that's an interesting thing. I didn't even know that. So you're going to reach like deadly... Oh, wow, that's actually good. Okay, so we'll see how that is. So maybe heavy attacks and sweep. That's going to be really, really powerful. Skewer bleed damage got increased from 20% per second from 10 to 20%. So it's now doing a whopping 200% damage on the bleed instead of 100% before, and that just gets even more with the increased bleed durations. So Skewer is going to be an ability to look out for. It's going to hurt a lot. Perforate got a 10% damage buff per hit, and it looks like they fixed a bug causing some issues with it to affect the cooldown rate. Glad that's fixed. Cyclone got a small buff. I tried it out. It's still useless, unfortunately. Vault Kick also has an issue where the cooldown began 1 frame before the hitbox would appear. It resulted in the ability going on cooldown if the attack was interrupted early, even if it didn't hit. Glad that's been fixed. Ice Gauntlet. This is going to be a big one because I know there's a lot of changes here. Our goal with the Ice Gauntlet was to tone down the effectiveness of some of the maxed out combinations and abilities while maintaining their individual usefulness. So the heavy attack increased the heavy attack startup and recovery time to make it consistent with other magic weapons' heavy attack timing, so it's going to be harder to heavy attack now. Fixed an issue with the Ice Gauntlet movement when attacking faster than other magic weapons. Interesting. Fixed an issue where the basic attacks on the Ice Gauntlet could sometimes shoot through an enemy without dealing damage if they are too close. Yeah, Bow and Musket have some weird stuff going on with that too, so hopefully that's fixed in all areas. Ice Storm increased the time damage between damage ticks from 0.25 to 0.33, so you will now be doing from about 4 to 3 ticks per second. So this is a massive nerf to Ice Storm. Basically think of it as a 25% nerf. So it looks like they fixed an issue where Ice Storm did no damage if the player had the Unending Thaw perk, and they fixed another issue where the Ice Storm didn't do any damage to enemies that were immune to slow, and another one that stopped the damage when the caster swapped to the other active weapons. So nice quality of life buffs to the Ice Storm there, but a bit of a damage nerf. Ice Spike fixed an issue where the Ice Spike displayed a cast timer despite being cast instantly. Wind Chill got a buff, but is still not too hot. Ice Shower cooldown has been massively increased from 20 seconds to 30 seconds, and this is huge, definitely. So that is going to make you think about your decision between Ice Storm and Ice Shower, and it may not be a go-to all the time. Entomb players can no longer be healed. That is a massive nerf to Entomb, and reduce the health of the Entomb by 50% of the max player's health. So this should be a lot less. So people should be able to actually break your tomb, so mages are going to have less defensive options. Reduce the damage of breakout burst attacks from 168 to 70%. Once again, a massive nerf, so that's no longer going to be doing as much damage. And fixed an issue where the invulnerability on Entomb could be removed if the tomb was still active. And they fixed another issue that allowed the Entomb to be moved after dying, so that's very odd. Ice Pylon. Increase the Ice Pylon health by 20%. Ooh, we didn't see this one. So that's good. It probably needs more health than that. Added a max lifetime of 45 seconds to the Pylon. And then they fixed a slew of issues that range from multiple ice pylons and also shooting players in a 1v1 duel with neutral, I don't know, bunch of crazy stuff. Ice pylon's been one of those weird abilities. I love it, but I think it just needs some love and attention. It definitely needs some fixes other than just that. Passives. The Ultimate Chill passive has been nerfed by 10%, so from 35 to 25, and they fixed an issue with the Ultimate Chill would not apply to enemies in some cases. They also updated the tooltip to have better wording and clarity. The Critical Frost talent has been nerfed by 5% from 20% to 15%, and they also reduced the Energized Critical from 15 to 10% damage bonus. Heavy Freeze now has a 5-second cooldown. This is so good. No longer are the days of being stuck in an ice shower and then permanently stun locked by a mage until you are dead with nothing that you can do. It now has a 5-second CD, so they're going to have to think about using that stun and when to use it. Fixed an issue that allowed enemies with this passive to root players standing in their own ice storm. That's also weird. Fixed an issue where the Ice Refresh perk could activate on both the downing and killing of the player. Now it triggers only on the downing. So that's good to see all those in there. Rapier now has some issues as well, where they fixed an issue with Tondo, Flourish, and Fletch. Had their cooldown begin 1 frame before the hitbox would appear. This resulted in the ability going on cooldown if it was interrupted. Flurry got a buff, improved the homing of Flurry to fix an issue with subsequent attacks would miss or barely hit or be hard to hit. Overwhelm fixed an issue where this upgrade incorrectly applied stamina damage instead of just block damage. Tondo has a massive buff as they reduce the cooldown from 11 seconds to 6 seconds, which is going to make Bleed Rapier a viable build, in my opinion. They also fix an issue with the upgrade only function on blocking targets, so they smooth out some things there. Riposte got a upgrade as well from 20-second cooldown to 12-second cooldown, increased stun duration, and the stun duration of the increasing talent also buffed up. The passives, the momentum increased the bonus damage from 25% to 30%, so that's the final talent on the right side tree. And they fixed an issue with swiftness, was applying the passive from haste, from bleed ticks instead of actual weapon hits, so it's glad that that's been all smoothed out as well. Next, we're going into Muskets, the final weapon here for the balancing, as it's been quite a ride. We're going to take a look, and it looks like we have a lot of stuff being buffed. So they increased the Musket base damage by 2.5% all around, so it's a global buff. They fixed an issue where the Musket could not be reloaded after dodge rolling and triggering an auto run. They fixed an issue where reloading would not automatically resume after an interruption when the player was aiming, and they fixed another issue where the Musket overcharged shots were not being consumed when hip firing from crouched. Traps can no longer be triggered by players in Death's Door, and a Sticky Bomb has been buffed by 50% damage, so 175 to 235. This might be very interesting, because Sticky Bomb has a relatively low cooldown, and it hits quite hard. It also provides a small, knockback or stagger, so this could be an interesting ability for Musket users to make use of. Stopping Power X cooldown has been reduced from 18 to 15 seconds, making it a bit stronger. Power Shot has the same treatment as well, from 15 to 12, and Shooter Stance goes from 20 to 18 seconds on the cooldown. So players can now exit the Shooter Stance by pressing Sprint, the ability key, dodge key, escape, or releasing right mouse button, so there's a lot of options to get out of that now. Critical Reload, they found an issue that caused the passive to function inconsistently, so that has been smoothed out. Now we have some AI things. It looks like we have new enemies, new lost enemies, different types, a lost shaman, lost alligator pet, I don't even know what that is, some sort of beetle, skeletal mage, corrupted villager updates. The strong laborer has been put down as pickaxe. Okay, so just the different types and ways the monsters are attacking and interacting. And then we have a lot of bug fixes and AI tunings. This list is massive, so I'll let you guys take a look at all of this stuff, but it ranges from corrupted breaches to outpost rush to invasions. The Spriggan got a nerf, I'm glad to see that. The body blocking, they reduced the damage of the Spriggan, they reduced the damage that he deals to structures by 50%, so I think we're going to see a lot of people actually clearing the invasions now, so that's cool to see. A bunch of buffs and interruptions to, or additions to Ancient Mage, like different Guardians and Angry Earth monsters, Corrupted monsters. So they're going to be doing different types of abilities and being affected differently. And this ranges all the way from every single monster in the open world, as well as some expedition monsters. It looks like a few of the bosses have been buffed or had something being adjusted to them. As well as here, they fixed an issue causing certain monsters to be lower level than intended in the Garden of Genesis, so that has been adjusted as well. And they reduced the damage of some of the bosses in there. Lazarus Instrumentality had a few fixed with the last boss, especially that beam. I know that's very, very weird, so it's good to see all those changes coming in as well. And then in the final part of this here, they fixed okay, yeah, so moving on to economy, progression, and loot. So this is also some important stuff, so we'll skip down to this. Looks like the faction change cooldown has been reduced from 60 days to 100, or sorry, down to 60 days from 120 days, so this will allow people to switch up their sides more often. The repair kit weight has been reduced by a lot, so you now will be able to kind of make use of this item. They added the item Chunk of Consecrated Iron to the top rank of the faction shop for all factions. Chunks of Concentrated Iron are used to craft the Resilient perk, so now you can buy this in the shop, so you can now create PvP gear if you wish to. That's a very important change, very huge right here. Economy change. All trading posts have been linked. Everything is going to be together now. This is the change that we were talking about before, but both the listing tax and the purchase tax will be paid to the territory where the buy or sell order was listed, and the items listed in the sell order that expire are returned to the settlement from which they are posted. It is no longer possible to place items on the trading post for 28 days. The max is now 14, and they reduced the durability loss from PvP deaths by 10%. 10% is a very small number, but hopefully it's a lot less than that. They reduced the quantity of honey gained from a lot of different stuff by 50%, and the amount of milk from cows. I don't know why. Like, who was like, man, I'm getting way too much honey and milk. I'm so mad. Like, this is so weird. So housing taxes are now due every 7 days instead of every 5. This is fantastic. So basically, you will have to pay less gold for everyone. I'm sure everyone's happy about that one. Progression, looks like they reduced the territory standing gains from cooking, as well as since they were a bit more generous compared to the other professions. And they have a homestead project, requires 1 mission item instead of 5, so a couple town board changes. They increased the XP requirements for progressing the crafting trade skills, and one player's the XP requirements on progressing just through crafting. However, it would take the same amount of progressing. Okay, so basically it's just going to be about the same. It's just lowering and smoothing out the transition on that. So trade skills, looks like potion crafting update. We felt that some of the higher tier core potions, especially the health and mana pots, were a little too difficult to craft. So they updated the recipes on that, so that is very good. They have a new component called the Alkahest. So it looks like Alkahest is crafted by distilling the magical herbs found throughout with Aeternum, and serves as a reliable and potent base for potions going forward. So any herb will basically be able to make a pot. Rare resources from gathering nodes. Thanks to reports on the forum, we found the probability issue with the rare resources from the tier 2, 3, and 4 gathering nodes and resolved it. Thanks to everyone who contributed in making New World better with your reports. The short version is that they had a bunch of probabilities that were multiplying each other and resulting in a near zero chance of the already rare drops items happening. So that, combined with the issues that could make it next to impossible to hunt for an item if your drop values were too high. Not exactly how it should work, which translated into luck sweet spot, where you had to be in to earn a chance of getting an item drop. So basically that's what people were theorizing, that if you had too much luck you weren't getting anything, and I guess they were right, which feels bad for everyone who put on luck gear and was trying to find stuff thinking that it was helping them. In terms of the finding void ore and stuff like that, it looks like it was hurting them if they were getting too high. So that's very, very weird. When this fix changed, things like Fey Iron and Void Metal, Phase Fiber, and Petrified Wood should now drop correctly. So this is talking about all those items. I don't know if it affected any of the tier 5 stuff, actually. As they said, it's tier 3, 2, 3, 4. So it looks like it was mainly just for the lower level stuff. So at least that's not too bad. The trade looks like there's a chance can be increased by eating the appropriate trade skill foods when gathering. Okay, and trade skill foods now enable the possibility for these drops before, where you would normally be able to receive them based on your trade skill level alone, even though it was a low rate. So it looks like the food buff will be nice. Fishing has a new thing. Opening fishing missions now requires 3 woodlouse base instead of 5. So that's on the town board, I think, right? Is that what that's talking about? That's really weird. So we'll dive into the next part, loot and rewards. Added several named in items and special drops from the named knights found in the world. Knights that are quest targets don't have special drops. So we're going to have to hunt these down. That looks really cool. So special new named items and drops. We'll have to see what that's all about. Add a new style of weapon that dropped from the knight enemy type. The rook defense tower shield now has a tower shield appearance instead of a kite shield appearance. And added a few sets of weapons designated by the participants of the Battle for New World event. These weapons are tier 5 and are capable of being legendary if they roll up to a gear score of 600. So new items in the game. That's really cool. And that's going to be some of the items designed by the people who are in the Battle for New World event. So pretty cool stuff to see. We'll have to be on the hunt for those and figure out where they come from. Looks like they have a giant list of notable bug fixes. So we'll go ahead and take a little bit of these as we're getting into the home stretch here. So players can no longer create buy orders for items that cannot exist. That's good to know. Fixed an issue that was causing bread and cheese baits from craftable... Causing bread and cheese baits from being craftable at kitchens. Okay, weird. Players can no longer post-sell orders when their storage is full. And they fixed an issue that caused alligators and boars to grant more XP. So just like a lot of general stuff here. Something about star metal, where they would give the opposite amount of ore. And then they removed a lot of non-functional craft mods from the drop list. If you possess one of these items has been changed to a different functional item. So a lot of these charms have been converted into other charms that actually work. So that's very weird there. I didn't know about all that stuff with the charms as well. So that's cool to see there. A lot of crafting mod stuff and attribute stuff with the repair kits, as well as repair kits. Coin fee has been kind of reverted or changed, so they might actually be useful at this point. And then they fixed an issue that caused certain pieces of weaponsmithing armors to not drop the chest and pants. So now the weaponsmith armors will be in the game, and you can create all the stuff you want, so that's really nice. I'm wondering if that means they fixed the mobs at Malevolence, because that's where they were all locked behind and people weren't able to get them. So that's interesting if that actually was a fix there. Looks like they had some streamer mode updates, as well as something like a salvage and repair to get all. And then they had another list of bugs in the end. So I think that's about all from here. But it looks like a lot of changes. A lot. And I feel like I've spent like 40 minutes, and that's probably because I have, talking about all these changes. But all in all, a bunch of really good stuff. I love to see all of this stuff. So once again, if you have enjoyed this content and this channel, make sure to subscribe, like, and hit the bell. We also have that notification thing that will alert you when a new video comes up. We also have the join button if you wish to become a member. And on top of that, we have the Discord in the description link down below. The patch notes will be there as well if you want to skim through every single little detail yourself besides this reading here. So hopefully this all helped, and we will catch you in the next video, everyone.